So, welcome everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Björn, as Sarah mentioned, with ETERS, being active in the Eclipse SDV working group, having the role of a community manager and in ecosystem development, and together with Philip, who's part of the community as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mainly S-CORE committer working in the process side, from the Eclipse perspective at least. The other activities I don't mention.
Perfect. So we will give you a hands-on view on Eclipse S-CORE. What is currently happening? Yesterday was the latest release, 0.6. That was done just for the community day, just in time. We will have a look what was in there. But as Philip is part of the safety group and the process group, a lot involved in there, and there was the perfect ball already played. We will have a closer look on this one, what is happening there, why are we promising that the project will be safety certifiable in the future. So we will have a lot of focus on this. As Sarah mentioned, ask questions in the chat. We will take care that we will have some time in the end to discuss and to answer questions. Perfect. So, don't want to talk about too much of the introduction of the project, but just want to give the core message. The project is up and running. The project is around. We do have a lot of maintainers. We have a lot of contributors. There's a lot of traction. The project itself targets microprocessor architectures. It targets the middleware as well as the programming environment, and having a API layer to the northbound and to the southbound. We are integrating with different operating systems already now in order to make this something that could be easily used and adopted. The lines of code in the meantime might be rather higher, as we are having a number of end of last year. So I'm 100% sure that we are hitting the 1 million rather soonish with the upcoming code contributions. But you see this code first promise that the project has on the slide in the center. And this is one of those promises. We have to rethink of code first to AI first. I know I heard about it a second ago, but right now we are saying still the project is delivering in a sense that we are building up on existing code, contributing this, and starting from there. Having said this, Sarah mentioned this as well. So we have a momentum, not only on Eclipse S-CORE, but in the whole industry on collaborating in open source. And this is incredible. Incredible to have the Eclipse Foundation supporting, as well as the VDA and all the others looking at this. And at CES now with those more than 30 companies saying we want to collaborate in open source, we want to support Eclipse S-CORE. This is the best thing that could happen to us in the industry. And really looking forward to use this support from the community and take this into tangible actions. And we see more and more companies joining the Eclipse Foundation, so not only signing an MOU, that doesn't hurt. It's just the will, the expression of the will. But come here, join the Eclipse Foundation, join the active work. Sarah mentioned it, there's a lot of space in contributing to Eclipse S-CORE and to collaborating in it. And we will have the links shared in the slides later on, where to get access, how to collaborate, and what is still missing. So Eclipse S-CORE itself, trying to solve and tackle different major challenges. So starting with the requirements from the industry. So talking about safety. So we do have a deep dive with a lot of insights. What are we doing with regards to ISO 26262? How can we comply to safety standards in the automotive? Reliable, strict timelining, something that is a challenge often in a project itself, not meaning an open source project, but a challenge for a project in general. But within the open Eclipse S-CORE, we are trying to have a reliable timeline. So therefore, it's important for us that we had the first release and now having a clear release cadence that is trackable in GitHub, so that people can rely on it. I mean, we are talking about automotive industry. Plans are made for cars going to road in 5 years from now or in 2 years, whatever, but we need to take reliability into this game. Existing code, mentioned this already, code first on the one hand side, but don't reinvent the wheel. So we are taking a lot of contributions in that were prior developed. So there are a lot of contributions from BMW that were serious, ready already, that are in the project in the meantime. Global scale. something that's driving us a lot, and not only us in the project, but Sarah mentioned it, Ansgar traveling the world, having the community day in Japan, in Korea last year. So we are inviting the whole world so that this is not only a German or a European-based activity, even though we are getting a lot of support from the EU and so on, but this can only work once it's getting global. And therefore, happy to have the next meeting and meet up again in the US as well, having a presence there, going to India. So we need to bring this to a global scale, and not only to the scale, but to adopt and to support and collaborate in it. And for sure, there's a lot of discussion on the business model. So business models are changing, especially for the tiers in it. It's not the traditional way how we are doing it, but it changes for the OEM as well. So we are collaborating in a totally different time of a project. So we are talking about requirements engineering in a joint manner. We're talking about the processes. We're talking about this whole automotive process and project that is taking place in the open source, which changes the way we do business and the way sourcing will be done in the future. But we're sure that we can manage. We have to manage, otherwise somebody else will do it. So there will definitely parties stepping in, apart from the traditional suppliers that will take your place. So you need to adapt to it, and we need to adapt to it. Mentioned this already, and this is why I'm speeding up a bit to have the focus on the release itself, and then having the space for Philip to talk about what we're doing with Exceeder and on the processes. So S-CORE first release started out on November 11th, 2025. And you saw the steep line of contributions, and by far it's not perfect. It's not perfect in the sense of processes, it's not perfect in the sense of code quality, of testing, on all these kind of stuff, but it was important for us to go public with this first release. So we had a lot of process work done, infrastructure tooling done, but it was really important to have this first step in order to establish the release processes, especially in this open source with those different companies in there. I don't know, how many contributors are active right now? 30 to 50?
No, roughly 100 individual contributors.
100 individual contributors over the past months in the project from I don't know how many companies in there collaborating in the open source. So we had to practice these release processes, and there were a lot of learnings over the past 3 months. We want to lower the barrier of getting started and using Eclipse S-CORE, even though there's only a very small set of functionalities and modules published right now, but it's the bare minimum to get something sent out via different units and to have this communication topics ongoing. And we want to engage with the community. We want to see the feedback. We want to get improvements from the community, and we want to invite. So therefore, these releases are now there and way more frequent than it was last year. Main integration point is the reference integration repo, and you will see this once you go to the GitHub later on. A lot of things now aggregating there. So this is again a process step that is ongoing to go more and more, bring more and more out into this, especially for documentation topics and so on. We have the documentation. So this is why I'm pointing this out, because the documentation pages changed a bit. So there's now, from the reference integration repo, an own documentation published with just a focus on the modules that are included. So don't be confused. Information architecture of the project might not be 100% accurate right now, but at least there's a lot of things available. I'm trying not to confuse, but to convince with these contents. And this is for sure something I can tell from the perspective of a tier. Whenever we're talking to anybody, it's just awesome and great to show them what is out there. You can always point to the project itself. This is the bare status. You don't have to hide anything. You can just show this is the status. This is what we're working on and collaborating on. And this is where we need support. And this is where you can step in. So this is a real value for us. So the release cadence was, we had the first one in November, went on to the second one in December. So we were on a 4 weeks cadence initially. Now figuring out that this was too close by, and now we had more like 8 weeks because of the Christmas break, and the project now is heading for a 6 to 8 week release cadence that is planned in GitHub. So you can see all those releases, what modules, what features in there, everything laid out in GitHub. In further details, whoa. There we go. What's in the release? So there's, in the meantime, I don't know, 5 to 6 core modules for communication, for persistency, health management, logging, orchestration, and the basic libs. Major changes to the 0.6 is that we have a lot of Rust things added. There was a lot of effort, I think especially the POSIX guys did to bring Rust up and running it more in there. So we have Ferrocene in the meantime integrated as well for the compiler. A lot of things are aggregated in the reference integration repo. I already mentioned this. From foundational infrastructure, a lot of things were done in the tooling aspects and additional test cases and having this continuous CI/CD pipeline up and improved. Everything was Docs as code and will be Docs as code. We have the QNX support from the beginning on. We had Red Hat, AutoSD support, as well as Electrobit Corpus, Linux for safety applications from the last release, but improved and updated with security fixes, so everybody's contributing to this. And mentioned the entry barrier and lowering it. There are, in the meantime, different sample applications that you can start, that you can run. There's the handbook giving you guidance on how to do it, or even from the community-created ones. Right? So mention more or less all of this. It's for completeness, because we will share the slides later on. Don't want to go into too much details on this right now. But I think major focus is like on completing the platform on the one hand side, adding up, mixing up, and bringing in the Rust to have this as an equal path in the project itself. I think it's great because there will be the future. We have a lot of traction in all those Rust-related topics. Right, summary, go there. It's all available. We will share the slides. You find the release notes in very more details than I can show now on stage. There's this whole reference integration repo that you can check out, build, and run on your own. There's the handbook available. So all the things are up there. Get to the community and join us on this journey. Just summarizing, reference integration repo, the Scramble app, showing a just subscribe, communicate pattern. It's all around, and what we like most, there's the community even starting to create contents and to create examples. Even though this one is now on the incubation repository, right? But it's like somebody taking up the things is capable to start using it to create content out of that and to promote what is going on there. And this is really what we love about collaborating in the open source in order to make it tangible. I think this is important to understand where's the project at, so that you don't have too much of expectations. So we experience in this as well. But as well, get there, get involved, and get those things, get your hands dirty. This is the invitation, especially with regards to the community day. This is always where we are discussing. Let us know your feelings on using it, your feedback, so that we can bring it to the people that are unfortunately not on site today. Having said this, I would hand over. No, not yet. Damn it. We are 6 to 8 week cycle of releases, and we will have a 1.0 release this year. This is the goal, and this is when, if you look at the GitHub planning, you will see that there is this plan to have a 1.0 release in this year. This is what we are aiming for, and this is what we are pushing. And this is why we're seeking for additional contributions and contributors. We want to make this happen, and we want to bring this stack alive. Very, very important for us. So you see, this is the current status of the 0.5. There are now the further contributions on the way to 1.0 ongoing. We talked about health and lifecycle already there, I think, now with the 0.6 release, but all the others in preparations or committed. So the building blocks are coming in, but there's still some and a lot of room for improvement on the building blocks itself, looking for contributions on the one hand side and for collaboration in bringing them alive. But now, finally, made it to Philip.
I jump over here. From process side, first of all, while we currently mainly focus on the ISO 26262 in form of the auditing, We also look into the 21434, into ASPICE, getting up to higher maturity levels there. And in principle, all the things we are developing are compliant to these processes. And you will see an increasing coverage drawings for like ASPICE and 21434 for the cybersecurity parts. And yeah, basically by covering the audit parts, we also bring in a little bit of ASPICE parts, a little bit of cybersecurity, but still mainly the thing which you see also from the maturity model there in this purple, yellow coloring on the right, explains to like where do we stand on our process maturity for ISO 26262s, because it's the most demanding one. And you're using Swings Needs, so I guess it's something which is not you, and try to build a lot of automation around it, do cross-repo work, and really look into that we use open source tools wherever possible. So there's really also the static analysis later on, which is important for testing. This is also open source tools. Then the automation part, because typically people say when you come to the safety world and talking to assessors, auditors, and so there's a lot of manual work involved, and we try to bring actually this manual work into enforcement by processes with the tools. And then as the tools are so important, we have the tool qualification parts. You will see the first use case analysis for like the build tooling Basel, and you get an overview of tools, all transparent, and see like where do we stand in the progress of tool confidence levels, tool classifications, and so on. You can see here basically most are currently in the initial in the managed process. We have a few parts which are still marked yellow for an initial process. This basically means, for example, for verification, that not all static analysis measures are implemented. We still do not have a reference hardware. We basically use QEMU when we want to get something on a board physically. Well, this is there, and you can see the yellow part for the security analysis, which also tells you about the 21434. We also have Trustable involved. I don't say anything about Trustable because Felix will tell us in the next one. So I jump over Trustable basically here. What's interesting, we had a 3 days audit from January 14th to 16th. We looked mainly into the process description, which is, well, the process, then the S-CORE main repo documentation. And what we got as feedback from the previous audit was always like, well, you show us some documents, but we want to see it living. So we looked for evidences, examples, practices where different repos have worked on it. When you look into the repos, you will see things are not always fully aligned, because we developed the process in parallel to the code, and therefore we always need to go through iteration loops, come with new rules which have to be applied, then we switch them on as a warning, as a note over a grace period, and then we pull them hard and bring this forward. So we have the audit really looking into pilots, and well, everything we found you will also see then in this epic, which I linked. Roughing, architecture, quality management, release management, requirements management, safety analysis. This is very mature already. Major pending deviations. So we had like 10 deviations in the previous audit, number 5. Number 6 now had just 3 parts on the impact analysis, inspection reviews, and the platform management plan, because due to the fast development, the platform management plan was not always fully aligned with the rest. Rough timeline, the next interim audit, number 7, will happen April 14 to 16, which should lift us this little, you can see this orange arrow there. It needs to go a little bit up. It's not fully at maturity level 2. And then for the 1.0 part, you should reach the maturity level 3, which means a defined and practiced process, because at this point of time, it should be a start of development, and we should have everything in place with the requirements, tracing, and so on. So this is coming there. Again, the epic as a link, what we do. Some have already been closed. And as we have the questions, so I got this recently in an interview or as a discussion with some potential member, customer, whatever, how you want to call it, and they said, show me the traceability. Do you really come from the highest level down to the other parts? And typically would start with stakeholder requirements, where you just get some highest level thoughts, then we break it up into feature clusters, which are then feature requirements. Then we have also feature architecture. We come also with component architecture, where components are more complex, but all these are interlinked, and the Swings Needs model are handling our relationships. So you can really see, I took the screenshot where you come from the one, this is a stakeholder requirement, which gets mentioned by the feature requirement. This feature requirement is also mentioned by the component requirement. You can see then how the things link and actually even the testing results. Yeah, it's a little bit messy. I just thought it's useful to see. So from a test case, you can really click on this test case and then it opened the test case in the code. It's a feature which came with 0.6. It's not fully operational. And what we can also see sometimes, you see then also this little, for one spot for the feature requirement, whenever you see this slight upgoing arrow over there, this shows you're leaving the context of this repository you will open in a new repo view, but the other parts basically go forward. So you can really click from one to the other, and whenever you click, you will end up at the right place, which is basically Swing's needs functionality and help us clustering. If you want to try it out on your own, the link is again there, so that you can follow it. And if you're not so much really want to look through every little detail of the code, you can also start with getting some overviews, how we are with the requirements progress. You currently see, I mean, we are still in this beginning phase, so the yellow part is still quite huge. So these are valid requirements, but are not fully covered by test cases. We are still writing a bunch of test cases. And it's interesting to see that we make no strong difference between the tools which we are writing, because we need to do tool qualification, and the software which would end up in the car. So you will find exactly the same status of requirements. You will find coverage parts. For the tools, it was quite nice to see, because there are things maybe not implemented yet. They are not automated, but they are there at the requirement from the process. And these reports are getting regenerated on every pull request base. So whenever something gets built, get merged onto the main branch, then you will see it there again. Right, then this whole thing is really generated, right? So you basically specify what you want to collect as data from the Swing's needs elements. So I put this example from the test cases where you say, well, whenever there is somewhere a test case defined, which comes generated as an XML report out of the test execution, they check for the words. And so whenever you would not fill in the right things for either not mentioning your test case, or you would not use the correct test type or the deviation technique, then this would not show up in the statistic. It would not be generated. You can easily identify flaws if you miss something. Right. And then for the 0.6, also to show our improvements, we have the unit test coverage reports. We have coverage analysis summary. In the past, we had these results also in, but not as a visual report prepresentation. You could already go through the release artifacts, these things. And what you see as an open part, we do not really measure the function and the branch coverage for the Rust elements. So we enabled Rust for many modules, but they are not yet in. And by this part, this will come most likely then for the upcoming releases. But you can see also where you get, which is also very supportive and helpful, because sometimes we got people saying, oh, you are targeting 90% coverage, 100% coverage, just allowed with deviation. Is this actually a real number? And you see that the modules which were brought in, which are used in serious production, bring in also the respective coverage values already to a certain level. And it's just improving. They're getting enhanced when new features getting added. So that's really what we generate. And again, this gets generated on a pull request base. So the documentation gets updated frequently. Yeah. What you also have, this dual side, whatever we do in the CI, you can typically also execute in your local environment. We have the dev containers, enable, you can just run the Bazel commands. The one thing which you have to do is get the Basilisk once, so that you have the right Bazel version. And from this, the readmes really bring you through. And this is quite helpful to just look what is something which is not maybe in there in your daily life, is that you directly do the full reference integration. You may more concentrate on your module. And that's the main thing. So what you can also then see for the CI parts, we do, of course, the standard checkings on this. But we really go also cross-repo, like the reference integration will be called from a module repository and so on. Let's see continuous work on it. And by this, if you have any questions, the communities are open, right? You have either the features, you have the testing, the process community, there are meetings for security, safety. I guess we maybe overdue a little bit with our meetings because we are flooding the Eclipse calendar. You do not find the other work groups anymore because everything just mentions SCORE. Nevertheless, you don't need to be there. So the most of discussions anyway happen in pull request issues and so on, or also in the Slack communication. Sometimes it's really useful to have these meetings to just align in a large group. So currently we also think about an architectural change, more like how we allocate work. And this is a bit what Björn also mentioned. There is still a room of change because we are in a 0.6 release and we figure out, we learn some things need to improve. And by this, feel free to come if you spot inconsistency, just let us know. Summary, so we really go for HPCs. We have the code first paradigm for the tools, for the processes, for the source code of the embedded software later on. We see that we have a global momentum and we try to increase further. We got the 0.6. You will get the 0.7 in 6 weeks from now, basically. We have an integration sprint, more or less, typically to also make sure that we meet the timeline for this integration. And a 1.0 toward the end of the year should be for the serious production. And I guess that's it. Some minutes for questions.
Thank you. So, questions? Yes. Who has the microphones?
This one.
Ah, okay.
You bring it? Okay.
Thank you for this good speech. It was really nice. And I have a question regarding ISO 26262. So are you using safety out of context approach, or how are you defining?
Yeah, what we see, we have we basically take safety element out of context as the approach with documentation around it. And you have one on the platform level. So you will get a safety element from all the things combined as like a reference part, but you also get the different modules. So you can take the lifecycle module or the health management, and they are also taken a safety element out of context. You get assumptions of use. Of course, the safety elements are not really out of context because they are in assumed context. So we have assumed assumptions of use maintained, and you see this also in the traceability model. So if you go, you can see where are the different modules split and how they are tailored, what is safety relevant, what not. So that's there.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so I have a question. So you showed earlier a list of features that you are working on. So if I come from outside the circle, so if I haven't engaged with S-CORE before, how can I see what features are missing and what can I contribute?
Okay,
and the question I get very often, particularly from EU projects that want to chip in, but it's difficult for them to find, okay, so what can I do?
So, I mean, whenever you have problems in finding something, you can just go to the public channel and ask the question, because there is the response. If you want to get a first glimpse, if you just go on the Eclipse S-CORE main repo on the org, basically, then you can go on projects, and the first project which will show up is always a roadmap because it's continuously updated. And in this you can find in the different tabs like what is currently planned and what not. This is basically also what Björn showed in the presentation as the overview, where you see this is already confirmed, this is open, and whatever you want to bring in from the feature set, you either create your own feature, this is an option, or you say, oh, here is an open feature that's not yet assigned to a company or a committer or whatever. You can make a proposal on how this gets implemented. So you can bring your ideas, your code, if you have pre-existing code, and normally we do then an analysis at a certain amount of time and say, okay, do we have 2 or 3 alternatives from which we can choose? Is there only one solution? And we judge the fitness for the overall ecosystem. So it could be if you have something not at all mature, just a frame sort, and just say like not a single test case, we may say, okay, this is not fitting in here. This then gets newly developed in the community, but you can be the community lead for this feature to bring this forward. That's the entry point, and the roadmap is really maintained.
So apart from going to GitHub, use the Slack channel, use the calendar. So tech leads or architecture communities are typically the ones having exactly those kind of questions in mind, what is missing. Next architecture workshop is scheduled. I'm not 100% sure when it is, but there will be an upcoming meeting talking about code for call for contributions,
Yeah.
where exactly those pitches happen that Philip just described.
Yeah, and also there's not only about giving code, but also help with the documentation, help with the requirements, help with the tool chain.
Process.
So really there is no excuse not to contribute, to be honest. And one more information, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a Hackfest in Esslingen. Where is Christian?
Christian
yeah, well,
is going
in
to host
Esslingen,
it. Yes.
right? And we hope that, well, this is
S-CORE is
going
part
to
of
be
it.
around S-CORE. S-CORE is going to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
We will have a hackathon toward the end of the year where we hope to get at least one challenge around S-CORE. So if you want to come and experience the code firsthand, these are the right places to go.
For sure.
And one more piece of information is if you of your organization want to show that you are compatible with a certain version of S-CORE, as well as if you embed S-CORE in whatever you do, the Platform Council is working on a compatibility and branding program. So there's also going to be, I don't know exactly when, but let's say soon, we are also going to release a set of rules and explanation on how can you use it and how can you claim you're using it. So we want to really make things super transparent, and we're also going to publish it soon.
Looks like there's an audience.
Question, Ansgar?
Crucial question.
First of all, thanks to both of you. I'd like to double down on one thing which Sarah was mentioning, because I'm getting that question quite frequently, also aligning with other communities, etc. So if you could pick and choose one of the regular S-CORE meetings, which is on the weekly community calendar, to get your head around what's happening, figure out how you can contribute, how maybe also we can align with other communities, what would be the one meeting you would suggest to visit?
Two. They're the tech lead cycles and the architecture cycles.
And
Okay,
and the tech
which one is doing what?
Tech lead's doing the overall organization, roadmap planning, what needs to be done, where, coordinating the different contributions, and so on and so on. Architecture, looking in the overall stack, what do we need, what is missing, how does all these kind of things fit together.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
And the one is Monday morning, 9 UTC.
Yeah, and if you find that you cannot join these calls because you are on the other side of the world, let us know. We can set other things in place.
For sure.
Question online?
Do we have time for
Yes.
the offline participant interaction?
Sure.
Yeah. There is Saran Guntlapali. I think partly we covered it, maybe, with 3 questions. The first one, what kind of interoperability expectations are being dealt between S-CORE stack and existing classic adaptive software stacks? Second question, given that Ankoi's Symfony, Cuxa and S-CORE evolving independently, how does the community ensure architectural coherence, especially around lifecycle control, service discovery and data access without creating tight coupling? And the last one, the third question is, what guardrails does S-CORE use to ensure it remains an integration contract layer rather than evolving into an implicit platform while still preventing architectural drift across independently evolving projects?
Okay, do you remember the first question?
So the first question,
like a goldfish, you know.
The first question was on the adaptive side and
Yeah.
the classic one. So there's no strong link to classic because it's a microcontroller space and we are on microprocessor side. Towards the adaptive, you will find relationships between the things, but I don't see that anyone would come and say, I build adaptive and S-CORE on the same thing. It's not the answer the virtual one want to hear. You want to add something, Björn?
Yeah, I want to highlight and invite for becoming part of the Hackfest in Esslingen as well. as we're exactly building up a demonstrator around this question, not using classic AutoSAR, but OpenBSW, looking into this realm of a potential car, Eclipse S-CORE, and OpenSOVD, which is partly the answer for number 3 as well. So we are bringing this in practical adaptation and usage to ensure that this can coexist and integrate. And so Cuxar, don't want to spoil too much on Christian's topic later on, working on the landscape as well, talking about having a view on the architecture elements in an SDV stack in general. I think these are all answers that do not only relate to Eclipse S-CORE, but to the whole working group.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, so there is no attempt of the working group to have a one and only architecture. So we knew this from the beginning when we set up this activity to have building blocks. Some of the building blocks overlap. Some of the building blocks can be interfaced with one another. But this is in the spirit of open source. We do not prescribe what components and what projects do. So, said that, S-CORE is also looking into integrating, for instance, OpenSOVD from outside of the project. Let's see how that works out.
Exactly.
But
this
in
is the proof point for exactly this question.
We also have SDV blueprints that integrate different projects to solve a specific use case, but it's not, we don't endeavor to have one and only architecture. So that is by design.
Yeah, you can really see that the committers are already building up systems where these different things interact, like also Christian will tell us later. Exactly. So there is a way of spreading Cuxar and other parts just into one system, and this also just makes a full SDV demo complete to show the interaction about the things.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, guys.